Alright, on today's video, I'm going to go over real quickly how I make my recurve and reflex forms for bow building. So I've got a piece of oak veneered plywood here. This is 5/8 inch plywood. This is something I had sitting around. 3/4 would be better. I'm going to take two of these things and sandwich them together to make my form wide enough. If you had two 3/4 inches, it'd give you a little more width, but these two 5/8 pieces will be plenty. It'll be a little bit on the narrow side, but that'll be okay. I've up from the end here, I've got measured up 12 inches and another 12 inches, and then I've cut this thing in half right here. So I'm going to have 4 pieces. I'm going to take two of these, put them together, two of these, put them together, glue them. All right, so we've got our 4 pieces cut out. Next thing we're going to do is draw our lines for our reflex and recurves on there. Now, when you're drawing your lines on there, I don't use any particular formula. I just kind of eyeball it and use a pencil and a piece of string. And the great thing about making your own forms is you can make them however you want to. And so you can make them as mild of reflex as you want to, or you can put some 90-degree recurves in there. So basically you're making a compass out of a string, a pencil, and then you're using this to scribe on the board. So we're going to start there. Then I'm going to move my finger up a little bit. This is going to tighten our radius. I'm going to move it up even more. Not that much. Come back here a little bit. So there you go. By continually shortening that string, you're basically tightening that radius every time you make a mark, so you end up with a nice smooth dip off on that recurve. And now we'll just take a saw, buzz this off, and then smooth everything up, and then we'll use this to scribe that pattern onto these other pieces. Alright, so we've got our form cut out. Now we just need to make sure everything's all smoothed off. We'll take it over to the vise here and hit it with the rasp. Alright, that ought to do it. Now I went ahead and took a belt sander and just kind of roughed these edges up a little bit so that this glue will have a little bit better sticking surface. And this is just tight bond wood glue. So I've got some drywall screws here. They're a little bit too long, and so they're going to stick out the bottom of this, but that's all right. We're going to take them out later. This is really just to keep this thing tight together while this wood is drying. All right, so I'm going to put screws all the way around this edge, basically all the way around this thing, really to clamp it together. Got to pre-drill my holes though so I don't split out my plywood. All right, so I've got these things all screwed together, and I'm just gonna let them sit here and dry overnight, and then we're gonna come back, take these screws out. We'll have to clean up these edges because they're not matching perfectly, they're not smooth. And so we'll take a rasp back there and just smooth these edges off, sand everything down, and then we can start mounting it to the backing board. All right, so here's a finished form that was made very similar to the one that I was working on earlier in this video. I haven't finished that one yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you one that I have finished. You've seen me use this form in previous videos, but all you have to do to finish this form off is take your screws out once everything is dry, and then what I did was just clean this edge up with a rasp or your sandpaper or whatever you have, and then I scribed a parallel line, and then I took a hole saw and just cut a couple of holes out in it. You can see the remnants of one of the holes. It was probably 1.5 or 2 inch hole saw, and then I took my jigsaw and just cut the center out of this thing. Rasped everything smooth, and then what that allows me to do is take my clamp, and I can put a clamp anywhere along this thing so that I can space my clamps real close together. Like on this real tight recurve, you want your clamps close together. Now I like this kind of a form because it gives me multiple options. You know, you can go with a real tight recurve like right here, something, you know, you can flip it over, go with something a little more mild, or a little more mild even still here. You could make a bigger form and have just a little bit of a reflex in it. I mean, use your imagination. You can put whatever kind of bend in the wood that you want by making your own forms like this. So that's going to wrap it up for this video on how to make forms. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to try to upload a new archery video every Wednesday. We're going to try to stick with Wednesday for now. And then leave us a comment below. Let us know how you make your forms, if you make forms. If you don't make forms, how do you bend your bows? There's 1,000,001 ways to do this stuff, so it's always good to learn from each other. So leave us a comment. We'll see you next time.